My friend Steve came back from a museum in St. Petersburg, Russia, where the original Rembrandt Return of the Prodigal Son hangs, and he purchased me this replica that I keep in my home. 2,000 years ago, Jesus gathered a group of sand-hearted tax collectors and prostitutes and a group of stone-hearted Pharisees who didn't like Jesus hanging out with sinners. So Jesus responded with a parable. A parable means to throw alongside. It's an earthly truth thrown alongside a spiritual truth. And Jesus tells a parable that's a trilogy. It's actually 3 stories in one. He begins by telling the story of a lost sheep. A shepherd loses one of 100 sheep, and while the other shepherds who are with him are watching and taking care of the 99, he goes off and he finds that one lost lamb and he restores it back to the fold, and there's great rejoicing. In the second part of the trilogy is a woman with a lost coin. Now, this is one of 10 coins, so it's more valuable to her, and she would sweep the crevices of her floor, waiting for that sound that maybe she found it, and it would pop out of the crevice, and she would have her lost coin restored to her. But then Jesus does something kind of interesting. He talks about one of 2 sons. One of 2 sons. And unlike the coin and unlike the sheep, this son has a will, an intellect, a spirit, and emotions. He has a heart. And this son actually goes to his father and he says, hey, I want my inheritance now, and I want to liquidate it. And I'm going to take off and do my own thing. And this is just atypical of a Middle Eastern patriarch. The father grants the request, and it says he divided the property between them. And so the young son goes out, and he just scatters his money like sand, living it up and doing his own thing apart from the father. And then that day of reckoning comes. He's lost about everything. He's tried his own self-restoration program. And he said, you know what? Even the hired hands back home, they have more to eat than I do. They got a place to sleep. I'm going to go back. Now here's what he's thinking inside his mind. He said, if I go back, they're going to perform katatsa on me. That means they're going to conduct my funeral while I'm still alive. But he's going to take a shot at it, and he's going to go ask the father for mercy. Well, a funny thing happens. He has this rehearsed speech, and he goes back, and outside the city gates, there's somebody looking for him, waiting for him. And it's the father who's gazing on the horizon, and he runs. He runs. If giving the right to have the property and the right to resell were atypical of a Middle Eastern patriarch, so was running. 2,000 years ago, only a mother or a child would run. But here the father runs. And he runs to the young son who's come home, and it's outside the city gates, and the son starts giving him the rehearsed speech, and the father stops him about 3/4 of the way through it, and he said, you know what, we're going to have a celebration. I'm reconciling you outside the city gates. The whole community will have to honor this reconciliation. You were lost, now you're found. I'm going to celebrate. Meanwhile, the older brother, the older son, he hears dancing. And he says, what's going on? And they said, well, your younger brother, he returned home. He's safe and sound. He's alive. They thought he was dead, but he's alive. And the older brother's got a real problem. And he does almost the exact same insult as what the younger son would have asked when he said, can I sell my right to this estate now and liquidate it? That was saying to the fathers, I wish you were dead. Well, guess what? In his own way, the older brother's kind of saying to the father, I wish you were dead. I am not going to honor your reconciliation. And then the father, who had stooped down, who had chased down one lost son with a sand heart, he has one more opportunity to bend the knees of his heart with graciousness and pick up another lost son. It's the son with the stone heart. the picture of the religious Pharisees. And he said, hey, I want you to come in and celebrate. Because your younger brother was lost and now he's found. He's alive. And I'm with you, and what's mine is yours, and let's do this thing together. And that's the climax of Jesus' parable. It's almost like he's saying to people who grew up in the church, hey, I don't just welcome sinners home, I chase them down. Are you going to chase them down with me? And one of the most unique nuances about that parable is when it said that Jesus divided the property between them, it probably didn't mean between the father and the younger son. You see, the older son got 2/3, and the younger son got 1/3. So the older son got his inheritance, and guess who felt like it was going to cost him something for the younger son to be reconciled? It was the stone-hearted older brother. You know, I think about that story, and I see 3 points that flow with the parable in each part of the trilogy. Something is lost. Something is lost and locked outside its gate. And second, it warrants an all-out search on Restoration Road. And then third, when it arrives at the destination of restoration, there is an all-out celebration. I can't help but think about those 3 things and think about my life and yours. Where do we fall? Sand-hearted younger son? Stone-hearted older son? Because I really believe that the point of the parable is to have the clay heart of the Father.